Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Knox, and I am the community liaison with New Valley Media. Before we jump into talking about the very lively topic of business ethics in an open source community, I just want to do some promotion. First of all, the social events tonight are going to be awesome, so come to Barley's. It's a great way to interact with the community, and the community is really important for Drupal. So that's the heart and soul of kind of why we do these camps and why we do all these social events and everything. So please come to that. It'll be great. And tomorrow we're doing a hike. If you want to come hiking, it's super easy. I am a certified wilderness first aid and first responder. So if anything bad happens, which it won't, I'm there for you. So follow me on Twitter, and my Drupal.org username is AdamJMKnox. My Twitter handle is theAdamKnox. Email me if you want to. Let's go ahead and get into it. So the goal of this talk is for us to terminate the slides early, because this is not a lecture. This is meant for us to engage in a discussion about business ethics in an open source community. I'm not an expert on any of these things. I have some experience both in the open source and in business and in ethics. And so bringing that all together, I have some things that I can share, but at the end of the day, I don't know that I can definitively say anything about any one of these topics, so I'm open to what you guys have to say, and I want everyone to talk to each other. My dream for this session is for us to be talking about it, for us to run out of time, and for a boss session to happen where people really care about ethics and want to continue discussing it, because as we'll talk about in a minute, ethics is always changing. So how does one balance the need for financial success with the ideals of volunteerism, open source community, and the web? Hopefully by the end we'll have a better idea. So I kind of did something sneaky. I organized my speech in backwards. And so we're going to talk about community first. We're going to set the stage with the community. We're going to talk about what it means to be open source. I'm going to talk a little bit about, ancient era ethics as it relates to ethics and morals, and then modern era ethics as it relates to ethics and morals. We're talking a little bit about business, and then we're going to try and bring it all together, and then we're going to open it up to try and have everybody talk to each other. So the first thing is, if any of you, and I think most people here are on Drupal.org, but if you are not on Drupal.org, if you don't have a Drupal.org username, do it. Like April said earlier today, that is part of the community. Part of contribution is becoming a member of the community and exposing yourself to what's going on online. There are groups on Drupal.org, and the links are there. And there's a lot of different regional things that happen. There's meetups, there's these camps, there's ongoing conversations online about people that are either local to you or local to your thing that you care about, whether that's commerce, whether that's a certain module, security, whatever, those conversations are ongoing. And you'll get a lot of value by engaging with those people. So Drupal was built developer forward. And it was built to make life easy for Drupal, or for developers. And so the idea of giving back to the community as a non-developer, and I have to admit, I'm non-technical. How do we do that? What's the way that somebody who's non-technical can, contribute to this community that is potentially providing a career, that's potentially making us money, that's potentially, allowing us to live our dreams? We could learn code and we could become developers, but there's other things that can be done. We can organize camps like this. We can try and educate people. We can be welcoming. We can be open. We can teach. We can give each other some love and some support. The reality is that just because you write some awesome code, if no one knows about it, if it's not marketed, if it's not sold, it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's going to go away. It's not going to get supported. It's not going to move on to Drupal 9, 10, 11. It's not going to exist into perpetuity. It's going to stale and die. So you got to communicate that. Drupal people are awesome. It's true. People are super fun. Last night was great, and the conversations were awesome. And there's going to be more of that later tonight. And the reason that I even wrote this session in the first place was because of the amazing experience that I had at the conference in Baltimore. The reality is there's people set up next to each other in booths. They're vendors, right? They're agencies. They sell websites. And the people next to you contributed this module, and the people over there contributed this module. And at the end of the day, if you really think about it, you're competitors. And you're using somebody else's tool that they contributed to the community to make money. And I brought this up with people of various levels of knowledge about open source, about business, and my mother was one of them. And she was like, Adam, how do you justify making money off somebody else's intellectual property? And I said this exact same thing to somebody in the Drupal community. And I guess the best thing that you can answer my mother that question is that it's not intellectual property. It's free. It was given because the person who wrote that module that you're making money off of, the person that got started in Drupal at some point, they didn't invent Drupal. They used some things that somebody else created and then stood on the shoulders of giants, so to speak. That's the phrase that people coin. A little bit of promotion. One of my colleagues at New Valley Media, she's speaking at GovCon, and her entire speech is about contributed modules. I think the title is Musings of the Contrib Queen, or how I used contributed modules to build a career. And if you think about it, that's the way that Drupal is supposed to work. You don't jump into Drupal and start coding. You are supposed to find the modules that do the things that you need done. And then if you exhaust those resources, then you can start writing the code, and then you jump into it. But using contributed modules, I mean, that's what Drupal is so powerful. That's why Drupal is such a great framework. So, first of all, I think our picture this year is going to be way better than our picture from last year. But that's our picture from last year. That's our awesome community. And you are part of it. So, open source. Notice over here, we got our little Drupal guy. Wikipedia says all these things: source code, copyrights, collaboration, licenses, blah, blah, blah. The reality is it's free. That's the too long didn't read, is that it's free. We are existing in a space that it's free for us to get started. And I like to bring this up as an example. I mean, I came from different industries. Previous to this, I was in agriculture, I was in manufacturing, I was an industrial engineer. And you don't get started in those industries sitting on your couch part-time. You can spin up a virtual machine on your computer at home. You can start wrenching on the Drupal site. You can start breaking some things, fixing some things. You can go on to Drupal.org, talk to people about the problems that you're having, and get solutions for free. And then eventually you can build a portfolio or a resume around the things that you went and did for free, after hours or part-time or whatever. You don't have to pay money to download Drupal and use it and play with it. In agriculture, it's a lot different. You don't just, get a free greenhouse to go and start growing, lettuce or tomatoes. You don't get a free tractor to learn how to grow corn and peanut and soybean. The idea that big farming could stand next to each other at a conference and be anything less than like ultra mega super competitive at a place like a conference is laughable. But at DrupalCon, it was awesome. We were literally friends with the people that were walking up. Hey, you guys do this. We do the exact same thing. It's awesome. How can we be partners? How can we make each other money? How can I find a lead that fits you well? How can you find a lead that fits me well? Just a little bit about my job. I'm community liaison. What does that mean? I mean, some business development, some sales, networking, marketing, community. That's what it's really all about. And lead generation and those sales things, that's a whole nother speech, but at the end of the day, your whole team can do that. And you can find ways to collaborate with other teams. And at the Baltimore conference, there was this term. I don't love the term, but I love the theory behind it, which is there's collaboration and there's competition. Co-opetition. That was the term that was coined. I don't love that, but I love the theory behind it. The idea that a rising tide raises all ships. That there's this boulder that we're trying to push up a hill, and it's impossible for one person to do it, but the more people that get behind it, the easier everyone's job is. I mean, the reality is there's a lot of really bad websites out there. And there's a lot of people that need the services that we provide. And so when you reach out to somebody to try and sell them something, you're really not taking money from them, you're giving them value. I mean, the best advice that I ever got in sales was, you should give more value to the person that you sell something to than you ever get back. You know, the person that wins should be the customer. And I think that's the difference between somebody who just wants to sell versus someone who wants to really benefit the people and benefit their customers and maintain a long-term relationship. And I think that fits in really well with the idea of open source community. So a little bit about ethics. We're not going to get deep into this. I mean, there's people who get like PhDs in philosophy and stuff. But so ancient era ethics and morals. At first when I was writing the speech, I was like, man, what is the difference between morals and ethics? And I was like, well, I think morals are relative and ethics are absolute. And I did a lot of research, and that's not true. But what it comes down to is, and Immanuel Kant is the guy that's pictured here. He's a German philosopher, pretty modern. I think he was late 1800s, early 1900s. And what he did was he took the ancient era idea of morals and ethics, morals being a person's individual feelings about good or bad, right or wrong, black and white, and said, you know, that's something that happens personally. And there's a lot of personal factors. And I think that factors in really well with what Adam said this morning in the keynote. You know, having some self-awareness, knowing, you know, who you are, knowing how you were programmed, so to speak. And ethics is the idea of the society's idea of good and bad, right and wrong. And what he said was, you can apply logic to ethics. And reasoning and logic should drive societal ethics. And you know, an example that my friend gave me was, you know, the idea of a moral and versus ethical conflict, a conflict between moral and ethics. You know, there's ethically, you must interview or hire somebody, you know, in a business role, regardless of their sexual orientation. And the person that's interviewing somebody is a homophobe, and the person that is being interviewed is queer, you know, gay, lesbian, whatever. That's a moral and ethical quandary, because ethics state that you have to give this person not only an equal shot, but the same shot that everybody else should get. And morally, they have a moral quandary with that. So how do you bring that together? I would love to hear your thoughts, either now or later, whenever, about if there is some sort of absolute versus relative moral or ethic argument, and what's the process of that change look like? I think the only thing that I was able to find in my research was the golden rule, which I think is so cheeky to bring up in a conversation about ethics, but it's kind of true. Treat others the way you want to be treated. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in that. And it's the only absolute that I could think of. But then I started like arguing with myself and doing thought experiments. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess sometimes I don't want to be treated the way I treat others, you know, or I treat somebody and I want to be treated differently. So, but anyways, I don't want to wax poetic on ethics here. So business ethics, that's what we're here for. I mean, we got to make money, right? And, you know, I like this graphic over here, you know, the idea of profitable and ethical, and where do we find the best place for both. And I think this graphic down here kind of oversimplifies business ethics, but I mean, responsibility, commitment, and commitment to what? Commitment to quality, and then reliability. I think there's more to it than that. And the web world, the internet is evolving at such a speed. You know, there's so many things that are changing. And the idea that you build something that's quality and then it's there, I mean, that's just not true anymore. I mean, my company, what we do is ongoing development. You know, you don't just build something and then it's there forever and it's done. We were talking yesterday in the unconference about security, and the recommendation on Drupal.org for security is eternal vigilance. I mean, that's heavy to think, well, security is here forever. This is always on my plate. And I think web development quality in general is also always on your plate. Once you roll a product out and it's live and it's launched, you're not done. And the reality is, if you're trying to be ethical, you're never done. So that's the end of the material that I wanted to present to you guys today. So is it the end? No, it's the beginning. I'd like to talk to you guys about it, and I'm going to seed the conversation by telling you about a moral, ethical quandary that I was called into once. So I was in a different industry, and a boss of mine, he was, saying, Adam, you got to go out and you got to make these calls. You got to get these sales. And so, sometimes you find leads by talking to partners. And I was talking to a partner of ours. We had done a collaborative work in the past where they sold some products, we sold some products. They worked together. We sold it to a client. The client was super happy about it, and it was a win. And we maintained a friendly relationship with this person. I'm on the phone with this guy, and we're just talking. We're talking about the industry, and he mentioned, it's like, hey man, I'm so excited. I've been working this lead for like 2.5 months, and I'm just about to close it. And it's so, this is going to be huge. Like, this is going to be this guy's big sale of the year. Like, this is his sale. This is going to make his year. This is what he's going to, in his annual review, he's going to reference this sale. He's so excited. And I'm relatively young, relatively new to the industry, and so I'm talking to him, and I'm excited for him. I'm like, dude, awesome, man. Like, I can't wait till I have one of those,